Welcome to Spa Talk, and this is Megan DiMartino, live from the Novita Spa on the Square in Georgetown, Texas, exclusively with BeFirstInMedia.com. As I said before we took a break, we are going to be speaking about sanitation today, and our guest is Janet McCormick, and Janet is in Florida and is joining us remotely. And so, Janet, welcome to Spa Talk.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
And today, as I shared with the audience before we took our break, Janet, you are a pioneer in the nail and spa industry. And to me, the word pioneer means that someone who is out there first, who is paving that path. But how did you even know, and how did it begin in your career to become a nail technician and to develop a business in the nail industry?
Well, I'd been a dental hygienist for many years, and actually, even though it's different parts of the body, there is some similarities between the nail industry and the dental industry. For example, there's appointments all day. You have to be on time. You have to keep the people happy. It's a personal service, and you have to be very personal with the people. So I was unhappy with the dental industry after being in there a long time, and I started a nail salon in Columbus, Ohio.
Very interesting. And that was in the early 80s, you said?
It was in 1980.
1980. And at that time, Janet, were focused in your nail salon, was it acrylic nails? Was it just natural nails? What were you doing?
We didn't do very many natural services back then. The acrylic industry had gotten really heavily involved with the communities in the late 70s. People called them fake nails and didn't want people to know they had them on, but it was really going. We didn't even do manicures and pedicures in the first salons I had. It wasn't until later when natural calls started coming into the salon, and I started realizing that we needed to start doing natural services.
And
About the same time as that, I became an esthetician, got involved with the aesthetics world, and started wanting to make some improvements around me in the sanitation and disinfection in the industry.
I see. That's what I was going to ask. Did going into natural nails raise your consciousness to the skin and direct you on some level to become an esthetician?
Yes, it did. I was seeing some similarities between facials and manicures. I wanted to improve the manicures. So I went to a skincare school to learn how to change the manicures so that they would be more productive and more results-oriented instead of just being a relaxation service.
I see. Very interesting.
After I was in the skincare industry for a few years, I took the Sedesco, which is an international diploma, and I've really been involved in the industry heavily since then.
And I shared with the audience before break that that you are a Sedesco diplomat. I'm going to ask you a few questions further about that. But also that you were a spa director, or asked to be a spa director at a leading salon in the United States that wanted to develop a spa program. What year was that? And share a little bit about that.
In 1998, I'd been in the skincare industry by then for 6 years, and I was training estheticians, and this spa was owned by a hair designer who was not feeling like it was successful enough, but he wanted to build more spas. So he hired me to come in and change the nail department and the skincare department into something that was going to be a positive for his business. And
by this point, had you gone to the advanced licensing of Sedesco? And what does Sedesco?
Yes, I did that during the time I was there in 1999. Yes.
And what does Sedesco stand for?
Sedesco is an international organization that is very French, and all the other countries in the world have Sedesco schools, Sedesco diplomas, large Sedesco followings, but we don't in the United States. And the reason, I believe, is because of the schooling in the United States. Like, for instance, in England, to become a skincare professional, you have to go to school 2 years and then serve an internship.
Yes.
Same thing in France, same thing in Australia, but our schooling is much less than that.
Right. The fewer hours, folks, is what Janet is saying, to receive your license in whatever modality that you're going to be working in, versus what, as she was saying, in the European community or international community, it takes a lot longer to become a licensed professional, whether it is a massage therapist, esthetician, nail technician, or a cosmetologist. And that, quite frankly, leads to the topic of sanitation, because, as I said earlier, that sanitation without responsibility can lead to serious, serious side effects to the individual receiving these treatments. So Janet, here you've been in the industry initially as a nail technician. You had a chain of nail salons, became an esthetician, went on to become a Sodexo diplomat, was a spa director at a leading salon. Apparently the gentleman who owns that salon was a member of Intercoiffures, which is a group that's in the United States of leading hairstylists. So you've known the who's who in the industry, you've grown, you've evolved, and you then became a writer for the trade publications, covering a myriad of topics, and one of which, I'm sure, was sanitation.
Reality is the very first article I ever wrote was about sanitation and disinfection in the nail industry. I'd been a dental hygienist for many years, and frankly, I was appalled at the practices in the nail industry. Even though they were taught properly in school, most did not follow through with it. For example, when you get a manicure, you should have your hands be washed. Go to the restroom, wash your hands before you go into the nail room. That was never done. Whereas in my salon, we had a sink in the room. Just lots of things. I had a lot of resistance in the beginning, and but back then, things weren't as serious as they are now.
Right. Yes. Now, that's an interesting final sentence that you said, more serious as it is now. Share with the audience some of the possible infections that one could receive from improper sanitation.
Well, there's, for example, a friend of mine who is a nail technician here in Florida got MRSA from a healthcare worker that came in and had not changed her clothes before she came into the salon. She developed a MRSA sore, and she's one of many, many. The problem is, if the nail technician is not careful, that can be transferred to the next client. Of course, hers wasn't. But there's been many, many instances of people passing on. It's called CA-MRSA, Community-Associated Methicillin-Resistant Staphylococcus aureus. A bunch of words that mean MRSA. It's a historical staph that's always present on our body, but it's taken some changes, and now it is very resistant to what they call the first-line antibiotics. They have to give you very heavy antibiotics, and it can get very bad in your body pretty soon. Week, 2 weeks, it can even affect your organs. That's one of them. There's another one called C. diff, and it's Clostridium difficile, which was actually just a heavy-duty form of flu. Wasn't any big deal until recently. And the reason these things changed is because around 2000, with all the airplanes bringing people in from foreign countries, all of a sudden these infections started being able to be passed around very, very quickly. It's the duty of every nail technician and every esthetician to make sure there is no transfer of infection. And as a client, you need to make sure that you know how they're going to prevent that.
So as we were saying, Janet, there are these strains of bacteria that are very resistant to antibiotics. But here the consumer is going into a nail salon expecting to have a relaxation in a whirlpool bath, have pretty toes and fingers when they leave with the latest color polish, and possibly can leave with something more, such as one of these infections that you just mentioned. How, Janet, today can we, as professionals, protect our clients?
Okay, first of all, you do not go to a salon where they're working on numbers, one person right after another, because they cannot be doing proper sanitation and disinfection if they do that. Second of all, if you see a file that has white on it or has some type of inclination that has been used before, don't allow it to be used on you. Third, the nail technician should be wearing gloves, but if she's wearing gloves, is she using the same ones that she used 10 minutes ago, the same gloves she used with someone else 10 minutes ago?
Wow.
If you're having a pedicure, and you see someone get out of the chair, and all they do is rinse it out or spray it around a little bit and clean it up, and do not scrub it, they have not cleaned it out. And there are all kinds of things that are harbored in whirlpool baths.
I see.
If you can, even though as wonderful and comfortable as they are, it is really better if you do not have a whirlpool bath, unless you're in a salon that you can trust, that you know that they're cleaning them between every client and then running them for a half hour at night with the proper chemicals.
I see. I see.
The pedicures are very, very, there are a lot of precautions, and the nail technician should be trained as to those precautions. If they do not ask you if you have any chronic illnesses, or if they do not have you fill out a health sheet, do not stay. They are not using proper sanitation and disinfection, and they absolutely are not doing the proper precautions. Do you agree, Megan?
Absolutely. Yes, Janet, very much so.
So, because there's certain things you do not do with diabetics or people who are in a wheelchair and immobile. There have been deaths in the United States, 2 of them right there in Texas, that have caused a big uproar, but yet many of the salons are still not doing the proper thing, and the reason is consumers are not demanding it.
Yes.
Consumers are still going into those salons,
yes,
who are run on numbers, one right after the other, reusing files, reusing gloves. Everything that they do is reused.
So, as folks, as I said earlier, before Janet joined us, this is not a sexy topic. This is not a relaxing, from your perspective, spa topic, but it's a necessary topic. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we have many tweets and many phone calls that people have asked questions of Janet. So we'll be back shortly. Thank you for listening to Spa Talk.